we have some breaking news. Let's go to that right now. Robert Saleh, the guy that everybody wants to come back as a defensive coordinator. That's the guy I want. But this came courtesy of Ian Rappaport. The Cowboys have interest in and are expected to interview former New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh for their head coaching opening, which would mark their first interview request so far. God damn it. So right when we think, okay, maybe he's going to do his interviews, not get the job and come to the Niners, now we have the Cowboys who want to interview him. And then there's buzz that the Jaguars want to sign him as he's the front runner for their head coaching position. Aaron, I think we're at a point now where it's like, I think we got to start considering somebody else. I don't know to me, it feels like if we bring in Robert Saleh as our defensive coordinator, next year he's gone. He's going to take off to go be a head coach elsewhere because everybody seems to want this guy. Now, am I talking down about Robert Saleh? Absolutely not. But now it seems like the Raiders want to interview him, the Jaguars, and now the Cowboys. I'm surprised the Bears haven't interviewed him yet.
Bears are a property franchise, so I don't. That doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't. But now that we've seen that the Cowboys want a shot at talking to Robert Saleh, does this lower the chances of us getting him, or do you think he's still going to be with the 49ers when all the dust settles?
Andre, I have no idea.
What does your gut tell you? What does your gut feeling tell you?
My gut tells me that he's going to land a head coaching position and will not be the defensive coordinator in 2025. I'm starting to get the feeling that someone like Jeff Ulbrich or Dennis Allen has a better possibility of becoming the Niners DC, which the Niners were in the camp to interview Jeff Ulbrich last year. I think they were denied, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, in a way, it's a good thing. It's a testament to the 49ers, and it's a testament to Robert Saleh if he's getting this kind of love. And, so props to him. Would I love to have him back? Yes. There is that part of me that is kind of like, we're going backwards. I've said this. I think I said it on our stream together that, there's a part of me that doesn't want us to go backward. I want us to go forward and carve out a new future with a different DC. But at the same time, if the Niners would have settled on him and he would have come back, that would have been great. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, hey, I'm just glad that they didn't keep Sorensen as their DC. So whatever happens, I think the Niners, at least this year, are putting a lot more due diligence into their DC search. So hopefully, if he can't be the guy, someone like Ulbrich or what's his name? Dennis Allen might be the guy. So we'll see. But nothing's official yet, bro. It's just it's just a report. So,
but it's not giving me much hope that they're going to be able to get this guy. And now I feel like if they do get him, he's going to be gone by next season because they'll be like, hey, thanks for the stint, but everyone wants me to go be a head coach, so I'm out of here. Now you could argue, well, hey, and what's up, 49ers throwback? And you could argue that, hey, look, maybe you bring him in and he becomes your defensive coordinator and leads you to a Super Bowl win. And that's all that matters, right? Yeah, no, that would be awesome. But I feel like you want to get a guy that's going to be here for the long haul. And the one guy I feel like will be here for long. Like, I feel like even if you got, what's his name? Ulbrich, you brought him in, right? And if this team succeeds and this team goes to the Super Bowl,
he's going to be part of the hiring process next year.
Absolutely gone. Yeah. I think the one guy that sticks around long term is Dennis Allen. Why? Because Dennis Allen has had multiple coaching stints around the league and has not been successful at any one of them. Has not led his team to multiple playoff appearances. Has been a coach that's been fired after 1 year. So I don't see him as a guy that you're like, oh, hey, he helped lead the defense to, the Super Bowl, or they won it, or deep in the playoffs, or whatever. I don't see him as a guy that everyone's going to be coveted after like they would Robert Saleh, like they would Jeff Ulbrich, because they're younger, they're former players, they've had head coaching experience. So I think, look, whoever you get, I think he's going to go.
Man, kind of the price of success. If you remember the late 80s, when the Niners were banging out Super Bowls, they had a lot of assistants that became head coaches down there, Mike Holmgren, Dennis
Yep.
Green. I know at one point they had the old Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll on their staff,
Yep.
Mike Shanahan. So, I mean, it's the price of success. And when you're good, it's a copycat league, like they always,
Yeah.
and people want to copy what works. That's just how it always is.
But you don't see that from like the Chiefs. You don't see Steve Spagnuolo leaving.
Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, some guys are okay with saying, you know what, I'm good being a position coach. I have no aspirations. Unfortunately, it's a good thing that the Niners have guys that aspire to do great things and aren't content in being just a DC. But you're right. It's like, man, I would love to have a Spags guy be on this staff for the next, 6-8 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to go anywhere, and then we don't have to go through this every single offseason.
Every year, it's a new one. Okay, look, you didn't tell me you were gonna have a guest on the show, Aaron. So you want to introduce your guest? Who's that cat behind you?
That's Bella. She's an old girl. Old girl. I've had her since 2010. She was a year old.
What is that? Oh, it's a cat.
Yep. She's a tiny little thing. She's kind of curmudgeon-y and old, but she still likes me, so that's all that matters.
That's awesome. Strawberry reacts says, I was just about to say the same thing, Dre. About the cat in the background. Okay, so I still think Robert Saleh is their best choice. I think he'll be able to come in and make a difference much quicker than everybody else. Because he's been here before. He knows these players. He knows the system. He knows all this stuff. It's the fastest turnaround you can get by bringing in a new defensive coordinator. He would be the fastest turnaround because he already knows the system. He already knows a lot.
Get right to work. They don't have to introduce anybody to anything, and players can go right to work. Mike, let me ask you a question, even though you're the host.
No, it's fine.
You worry about the Niners being too comfortable, having a guy come back and everything's kumbaya and everything is just like, we're just going to do it just like the last time and everything's going to go back to normal. Like, I feel like you still got to put the work in. It's not just by osmosis where, you come together with something else and it just, goes exactly the same way as it does before. That's my only concern. Like, my brother's a Dolphins fan. He thinks that Saleh coming back to the Niners would be awesome and that the Niners defense would return to glory. And I agree with that, but there is a little bit to me that thinks that, like, okay, everything's kumbaya and everything's great and everything's going to go back to the same way it was. And it's like, well, the same way it was didn't exactly finish the job the first time around. So I feel like everybody needs to be a little realistic with it. But yeah, he is the best choice and he is probably the choice that a lot of 49er fans want. But everybody needs to take a step back a minute and just kind of look at it a little bit and be like, it is great, but it does bring me a little bit of trepidation about, if players are going to become too comfortable about having their guy back in the building. I don't know. Well, that's just my personal opinion.
Let me ask you this then. I know you asked me a question, but I'm going to respond with another question. If D'Amico Ryans were to get fired and he said, I want to come back and be the defensive coordinator, would you take him back?
Hell yeah.
Exactly. If Robert Saleh wants to come back and he was successful with a lot of the players that are still here, absolutely I want him back. Yeah. Look at what the Patriots did. Every time Josh McDaniels would leave, where would he go? He'd come back to Bill Belichick and be his offensive coordinator. Every time Matt Patricia, every time he left, he came back and found success under Bill Belichick. So there's nothing wrong with bringing these guys back. Now, Sentinel, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I would take D'Amico over Saleh as well. But the thing is that you're bringing them back because you know how to run this system and you know what to expect out of this coach. And the players know what to expect out of the coach. You bring in Dennis Allen, they all have to meet this guy. They all have to get to know this guy. They all have to know his system. He's going to say, hey, I get you guys want this, but I like to do this and I like to do this because I've been doing this for a long time. Nick Sorensen was like, hey, I got to bring us back to what we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. How do I do that?
Right.
While Saleh's like, no, this is what I do. So I do the shit that you want me to do, but I also do more as well because, I've expanded my my repertoire, if you will. And so it's like, to me, it makes a lot of sense to bring back Robert Saleh. Now, based on the fact that he's getting all these fucking interviews, I don't know if they actually will get him back. But obviously, I think he's still the number one choice. Now, they have not sat on their hands on this. They have continued to interview other people. I think they were planning to have an interview with Dennis Allen. They interviewed Modkins, who is a special teams assistant coach from the Detroit Lions. They also interviewed I forgot his name. He used to be the special teams coach of the Carolina Panthers. So they are continuing to interview other coaches to fill these other vacant spots, which I think they want to fill these relatively quickly. I would even take Ryans over Kyle. I don't know about that. But still, I think it sucks that the Cowboys want to talk to him now after they supposedly couldn't negotiate with Mike McCarthy, which I don't know what everybody sees Mike McCarthy. I think he sucks, but every team seems to want to get him. I don't know what it is. Even when he was our offensive coordinator, I didn't think he was that good. Then he went to the Packers. I was like, what's going on?
Did you hear Troy Aikman talk about how he doesn't think that the 49ers or the Dallas Cowboys job is appealing because you're not really in charge when you take that job? You're essentially a puppet who does what the owner says. And this is Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman hasn't been too kind to the Cowboys in years. Anytime it talks about, things, being in charge, like, getting a head man in charge. And yeah, that's why McCarthy that's why McCarthy was there for as much as he was, because he is a yes man and he doesn't challenge the owner. I'd be interesting to see if Saleh is a yes man, if he'd be willing to take a back seat to all football operations and essentially just coach. I don't know, man. He seems like a super big alpha male who would have a hard time having somebody dictate terms to him. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, he's already been here, so I don't see there wouldn't be much dictating, because I think that Kyle Shanahan's the kind of coach that he likes to lean on his defensive coordinators to really take over that half of the game. And when he's had a coordinator in which he doesn't have to worry that much about, he's usually more successful. D'Amico Ryans, we always had success. Robert Saleh, we had success. When we had Steve Wilks and Wilks wanted to do something different and would kind of go against the grain, you saw them kind of have some issues throughout the season. Telling Wilks to come out of the booth and be on the sideline because the players want that. He even told him the players want to be able to interact with their coach. They want their coach down there. They want their coach giving them immediate feedback on what he's seeing from the offense, not running over, putting on a headset and listening to Steve Wilks go, "Hey, this is what you're doing wrong," or "This is what you got to look at." It's just the way you receive information in the workplace. And granted, they're at work, so I'm going to call it the workplace. That dictates how you perform. And so I think they know the way Robert Saleh, how he operates, and that's the kind of person they want back in the locker room is Robert Saleh.
Yeah, like I said, I wonder if Saleh would accept being in Dallas knowing that he doesn't have any real power being the
No,
coach
I
of
don't think
that
he would.
team.
I don't think
That's
he would at
why I
all.
think with that interview, I would take that one a grain of salt, because you know who's going to be conducting that interview and you know
Oh,
who's
it's Jerry
going to be.
Jones.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like I'm like I told you before, I'm just glad the season unfortunately went as bad as it needed to go in order to make some changes in it, just no doubt. Because if you end the season on a winning streak, or things look a little bit better as you close out the season, sometimes people are like, "Oh, let's just run it back."
It
We ended
gives you
on a
false
good.
hope.
Yes, and I think ending as bad as they did, and I said this to multiple people, things had to go as bad as they possibly could go for John and Kyle to be absolutely locked in on changing things. So at least Sorensen is in the DC and Schneider isn't the special teams coordinator. We went rock bottom with both of those guys. So hopefully, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, the only way you can go is up based on how the season ended, but we'll see.